Lusitania was a U.S. passenger ship which was known for getting people and goods from New York to Liverpool in a fast, comfortable way. It was said that the ship had a supply of firearms for Great Britain, causing Germany to use its new destructive weapon. A German U-boat launched a torpedo at the Lusitania, causing it to sink, giving the U.S. another reason to join the fight in World War I. Naval warfare was an important part of World War I, and many new forms of battleships were created. Naval warfare not only created new ways for airplanes to get into battle, but they were also able to effectively fight back to defend their side.
Battleships were a crucial part in Navy today. The first plane to ever take off on a battleship was a cruiser called Birmingham on November 10, 1910. The Navy was experimenting with the ships with small platforms for practice to take off, but takeoff weights were limited and no landing solutions were found. Seaplane tenders were small seabed carriers that had to land next to the ship and had to be picked up by crane. These ships did not last long. They were called the HMS, which was torpedoed and sunk in November 1914. Airships were another big part in World War I. In November 1912, a contract for an airplane to be armed with a machine gun. This machine gun was called the Destroyer. A crew of plan was made up by a pilot and a gunner. The gunner was placed in front of the pilot and destroyed the enemy. There was an airship that was called the Red Baron. The Red Baron pilot was Manfred von Richthofen. He was a German that flew this plane, and he dominated the field. He killed well over 80 kills in the field. This pilot helped the war out very extensively.
The U-boats were the new thing in warfare. They were ships that could go underwater and stay in cover while they attacked their enemies. They could sink enemy ships without even being detected. Their main weapon was the torpedo. A torpedo is a self-propelled missile containing explosives that usually comes from a submarine. The Germans had 29 U-boats at the start of the war. They would prove themselves effective by sinking 5 British cruisers in the first 10 weeks. The first U-boat to sink a ship with a torpedo was the U-21, which had sank the British ship HMS Pathfinder. German U-boats were one of the causes of World War I because the Germans would just sink anything they wanted to and not be challenged. They would give the Germans a fighting chance in the war. Now, when you think of battleships or submarines, you think of modern technology, but back in World War I, the battleships and submarines worked differently than they do now. Germany launched 29 U-boats, which were a type of submarines in the beginning of World War I. These U-boats used diesel engines, which had long exhaust pipes that led to above sea level. Now submarines use nuclear energy to power them, using a lot less material to last longer periods of time. Another form of boat that was created during World War I was the aircraft carrier. The flight of the first airplane taking off a ship was on November 10, 1910, off of the cruiser Birmingham. Since then, we have had many flights off of aircraft carriers, making it easier for planes to get into and out of battle using less fuel and traveling less distance. The planes have become much more advanced since World War I, and they are able to send more into battle off of the carriers. Another battleship that has become modernized is the Destroyer. It was created to protect aircraft carriers from submarines and their torpedoes. Even though it was not made until World War II, the Destroyer shows how modern technology has helped our Navy. It is important to keep the advancement going in order to keep our Navy above all others.
Naval warfare was one of the main parts of World War I. Not only did naval warfare cause the U.S.'s involvement in the war, but it also helped the countries throughout the war. Many advancements were made and many navies were improved. Defense on the water was one of the most important parts of the war, keeping our country safe. Even though the technology was not very impressive back then, everything we have now is based off of something that was used. Without the help of the Navy, who knows what the outcome of World War I would have been.